Minecraft PvP has changed more than almost any other part of the game. What started as two players trading sword hits has evolved into completely different combat styles, each rewarding a different set of skills. Some are all about movement and spacing. Others revolve around inventory management, utility items, or ending a fight in a single mistake. You can be one of the best players on a practice server, then get destroyed the moment someone drags you into Crystal or Cart PvP. That's because every style has its own mechanics, muscle memory, and way of thinking about fights. As we go through them, you'll notice that Minecraft PvP becomes less about clicking fast and more about controlling your opponent, reading their next move, and knowing exactly when to commit. By the end of this video, you'll understand why competitive players usually specialize in one or two styles, and why learning one doesn't automatically make you good at the others. Sword PvP. Sword PvP is where almost every competitive player starts. It's most commonly played on practice servers, where both players spawn with identical gear, so the fight comes down almost entirely to mechanics. The goal is simple: win trades, hold combos, and stop your opponent from ever getting back into the fight. The biggest mechanic to learn is S-tapping. After landing a hit, players briefly let go of W before pressing it again to reset sprint. That reset gives the next hit more knockback, making it much easier to keep a combo going. Just as important is jump resetting. Good players don't jump reset because it looks flashy. They do it because it lets them recover from knockback faster, making it much harder for the other player to extend a combo. You've probably had fights where you lose the first exchange, get stuck in a combo, and never get a chance to fight back. That's exactly what experienced players are trying to create. Beginners usually hold W the entire duel, spam clicks, and jump far too often, which destroys their aim and movement. Strong players stay patient, focus on spacing, and know that keeping a combo is worth far more than chasing one extra hit. One of the biggest improvements you can make is learning when to back off for half a second instead of forcing another swing.
SMP PvP. SMP PvP takes those core mechanics and drops them into a real survival fight. Instead of perfectly balanced duels, you're dealing with shields, healing, terrain, and enchanted gear. Winning isn't just about mechanics anymore. It's about making better decisions while everything around you is changing. Critical hits become much more important, but good players don't just jump every time they swing. They choose when to crit, because constantly fishing for critical hits makes your movement predictable and usually gets you punished. Another mechanic you'll constantly see is attribute swapping to disable shields. Players quickly swap to an axe, disable the shield, then immediately swap back to their sword before the opening disappears. It sounds simple, but doing it smoothly in the middle of a real fight takes a lot of practice. A common situation is when your opponent pearls away on low health, blocks with their shield, expecting to survive and reset the fight. Instead, you disable the shield instantly and keep the pressure on before they can heal. Beginners often turtle behind their own shield for too long, spam critical hits even when they're losing spacing, or swap weapons too slowly. Experienced SMP players are constantly thinking about positioning, cooldowns, healing windows, and what item they'll need next instead of only focusing on their crosshair.
Diamond SMP. Diamond SMP builds even further on survival combat by turning utility into one of the strongest weapons in the game. Fully enchanted gear keeps players alive for much longer, so forcing mistakes becomes more valuable than simply dealing damage. That's where cobwebs come in. Cobweb trapping is one of the defining mechanics of this style. A well-placed web can completely stop someone's movement, giving you time to heal, reposition, or line up several free hits. More advanced players take it a step further with stun webbing. Instead of placing webs where someone is standing, they place them exactly where knockback will send the opponent, trapping them before they even realize what's happened. If you've ever been knocked into a web, tried to break out, and suddenly found yourself eating 3 sword hits before you could move, you've experienced exactly why this mechanic is so strong. Newer players often throw webs too late, miss their placements, or trap themselves instead. They also underestimate how important fast hotkeys are. The best Diamond SMP players swap between sword, webs, axe, healing, and pearls almost without thinking. Once your inventory management becomes automatic, your attention can stay on the fight instead of your hotbar.
Cart PvP? Cart PvP barely feels like traditional Minecraft combat. Instead of looking for long sword exchanges, both players are trying to create a single opening that ends the fight instantly. The style revolves around explosive minecarts and is mostly played in dedicated PvP communities that have spent years optimizing every placement and timing. One of the most common techniques is the crossbow cart. Players load a crossbow with a minecart, fire it, and combine that with instant placements to create explosions before the opponent has time to react. The other mechanic every cart player learns is how explosion positioning works. Minecart damage isn't just about standing close. The exact position of both players, the cart, and the timing of the detonation all affect how much damage gets dealt. That's why experienced players sometimes survive point-blank explosions, while other hits delete nearly a full health bar.
Crystal PvP.
Crystal PvP revolves around placing and instantly breaking end crystals. Since a single crystal can deal lethal damage at close range, positioning matters far more than raw CPS. It's one of the fastest PvP styles in Minecraft, and fights are often decided in seconds if someone makes a single mistake. One of the important mechanics is the double tap, often shortened to D-tap. You quickly pearl onto your opponent and place 2 crystals in rapid succession, aiming to kill them in an instant.
Spear Mace PvP. The mace completely changed how players think about vertical combat. Instead of winning through sustained pressure, you're looking for one clean slam that turns the fight around. Spear Mace PvP combines the wind charge, the mace, movement, and pearls to create constant vertical pressure. One of the strongest mechanics is the stun slam. Players use their axe to break the opponent's shield before dropping onto them with a mace hit, making it impossible to block. Another mechanic is the pearl catch. Instead of using pearls only to escape, experienced players throw a pearl and a wind charge almost at the exact same time, then use the teleport to instantly continue the chase or follow up another slam. A common fight starts with both players launching into the air, trading movement with wind charges, until one player mistimes a landing. The other immediately capitalizes with a clean mace hit before chaining pressure with a pearl. Beginners usually focus on getting as high as possible, even though predictable jumps are easy to avoid. Good mace players care much more about timing and angles than raw height. Landing one guaranteed slam is almost always better than missing 3 bigger ones.